International Swimming Authority Fina has effectively banned transgender women from competing in women's events at Fina competitions, including the Olympics. The policy was passed last weekend by a yes vote of 71% at the Fina Congress in Budapest, after a secret task force spent 6 months consulting with scientists, athletes, and legal experts. Now, given the timing, it's hard not to ponder whether Fina's decision was a response to the increasing notoriety of trans swimmer Leah Thomas of the University of Pennsylvania, who has been making proverbial waves in women's events at NCAA college swim meets since November last year. Leah, who competed in the men's division before taking a year off to medically transition, has dominated women's events for the last several months. Clip after clip has gone viral online, and the difference between her and her female competitors is stark. As you can see, Leah is running a totally different race. There is no way any person with a shred of integrity could call that fair. Fina simply had to act, and good on them. Anybody who has so much as arm-wrestled with a member of the opposite sex will know that people who go through male puberty have a physical advantage of those who don't. President of Fina stated the decision was not made for no reason.
It is a policy that is based on science. It is a policy that we need to introduce in order to protect the competitive fairness of our event.
That's why it is so galling when left-wing activists insist that trans women do not have an inherent physical advantage in competitive sport. That assertion is not only at odds with biology, it's at odds with someone who really should be seen as an authority on this outside of the medical community. That person is, of course, Caitlyn Jenner. Caitlyn is not only trans, she is an Olympic champion who competed in the men's division of the decathlon as Bruce Jenner. She has consistently insisted that trans women and girls should not be competing in women's events.
Individual happiness, here in Leah's case, cannot take priority over the undeniable biological fact that she's trans and has a massive physical advantage over the other athletes. I mean, you see her on the blocks, and I can see the girl standing next to her. If you look up to her, she's very tall. And the girl's thinking, I can't beat that. You know, I'm going for second place. And it shouldn't be that way, and the NCAA has to protect women's sports.
Given the relentless demands from activists that we should listen to trans people on this, it's strange that they refuse to listen to arguably the highest profile trans person on planet Earth, who has lived experience in elite sport. But I guess being trans doesn't count if you're conservative, as Caitlyn Jenner is. Well, what about listening to the science, that hallowed deity we've had hammered into us by leftists on everything from climate change to COVID? As the scientific experts consulted by Fina stated, there are sex-linked biological differences in aquatics that are largely the result of substantially higher levels of testosterone to which males are exposed from puberty onwards. Post-pubescent males have circulating testosterone concentrations at least 15 times higher than post-pubescent females. High testosterone levels generate measurably different body types and compositions between sexes. If gender-affirming male-to-female transition is initiated after the onset of puberty, it will blunt some, but not all, of the effects of testosterone on body structure, muscle function, and other determinants of performance. But there will be persistent legacy effects. A biological female athlete cannot overcome that advantage through training or nutrition. Yet still, activists refuse to listen. When they're not trying to argue against biology, they argue that because there are so few trans women competing at elite level, well, there's no point even raising these concerns. Member for Warringah and Teely Independent Zali Stegel made a firm point of this in the lead-up to the election.
We are talking about a minority of the population that is already incredibly vulnerable. At elite level, it is so rare. You have not got this rush of events where it's happened.
But the fact there are small numbers of trans women competing now is the point. This issue is going to get bigger and bigger over the next decade, not just because of the cultural force insisting that gender is based on feelings, not biology, but also because, for whatever reason, young people nowadays are disproportionately identifying as trans. In the USA alone, a report from the Williams Institute based on CDC health surveys reveals nearly 43% of the nation's trans and non-binary population are between the ages of 13 and 24. If sporting bodies wait until trans women are regularly claiming accolades from females, it will be almost impossible to roll it back. Now is exactly the time to enact policies like Fina's. Besides, the point is not that trans women shouldn't compete in women's events en masse. The point is it shouldn't happen at all. Women and girls should never miss out on sporting accolades or scholarships or places on international teams to someone who went through male puberty. Not even once. And evidently, other sporting bodies agree, with International Rugby League, World Athletics and FIFA recently announcing they too would be conducting reviews into their policies regarding trans inclusion. Could this be a domino effect? We shall see. But in the meantime, Fina should be roundly commended for taking the proverbial plunge. It simply makes sense.